Hello, gentlemen, and welcome to the Mental Dojo with yours truly, Dennis Procopio. I'm a life coach for men. I own Man Up Life Coaching in San Diego, California. I work with dudes here in the United States and internationally, talking about guy stuff, guy problems, things that are on your mind, things that are on your heart. And today we're going to be talking about yet another grueling, uncomfortable, awkward bro topic. So join me inside. I promise it will not disappoint. See you there. Hello, gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Mental Dojo with yours truly, Dennis Procopio. This is a space for us to roll up our sleeves, put on our thinking caps, and grind our way through uncomfortable topics. And today's topic is discrimination. Now, the moment you hear me say discrimination, I'm sure you go, oh, fuck, man, I don't want to talk about this. I'm so sick of this shit. That is, if you're someone who isn't the target of discrimination. If you're someone who is the target of discrimination, you may be thinking, man, I'm glad people are finally talking about this because it kind of sucks to be targeted because I'm different in some way. Now, I'm not going to compare my personal experience to the experiences of people with significant differences, but even myself. I mean, like a lot of people, I grew up getting picked on. I had a kid with a big nose. A little Jewish Italian kid with the last name Procopio, and the kids called me fucking Pinocchio. The little Irish kids thought they were pretty clever with that one. Philadelphia, 1970s. And I took the hit, right? I took it. Ha ha ha, Pinocchio. Ha ha ha, Pinocchio. But after a while, it got fucking annoying, right? So what happens? What do you learn to do? You learn to break somebody else's nose is what you learn to do. And that's not really the answer, is it? Well, it's arguable. Maybe it is the answer. But I'd like to think that there's an alternative. I'd like to think that education is the civil and diplomatic way to create understanding in this family of ours, this fraternity of ours, so that we don't have to have a perpetual Hatfield-McCoy situation. Now, in our current social climate, we're in a conversation about Black people, white people, Hispanic people, women, persons with disabilities, anyone in the frickin' gay rainbow, from transgendered to the whole bit. I mean, there are so many, LGBTQ, do all the way down the line. You know it. I don't really care what you look like, personally. My son has dwarfism. He was born with dwarfism. He's 9 years old. He'll be 10, July 30th. He's a little person. He was born with achondroplasia dwarfism. What does that mean? It means he'll never be a whole lot taller than 4 foot something. It means he has a big hydrocephalic head. It means when he was born, his head was in the 100th percentile, meaning 0 out of 100 kids have a head bigger than his. He also has short arms and legs, average sized torso, mid-face dysplasia, which is a fancy way of saying he's got that kind of pug look in his nose and sort of a Cro-Magnon brow. I'm not going to bullshit and say that's not what's going on. Yeah, that's what's going on. And the thing is, I love him. I love my son. That's how he looks, and I love him. It's just like, Down syndrome. There are some patent characteristics. We know what that look is. We're not going to sit here and pretend we don't. But when you've known somebody, you fall in love with them, and you change what these differences mean for you. That's what it's about. When my son was diagnosed, well, he wasn't technically diagnosed in utero, but at 34 weeks, we, obviously his mother and I went to the hospital, Toro, in New Orleans, where we were living at the time. I'm in San Diego now. But we went to the hospital. They put the gel stuff on her, whatever, contact gel or whatever, on her tummy, and got the little scanner thing out and kind of went, "Roop, roop, roop, roop," and we're looking on the screen, and we're both trying to make out what we're seeing, and you could tell it's a baby, but the doctor lady keeps going back and forth from the wrist to the elbow to the head to the chin to the nose. And I'm an artist. I have a pretty good working understanding of anatomy, and I'm watching what she's doing. I'm getting nervous, and my partner Celia is sitting there like, she sees a heartbeat. That's all that matters to her. And the lady calls the doctor in, and the head of the department or whatever, and he comes in and he says, "Well, folks, I think you're gonna maybe be consulting a geneticist when the child is born, because based on these findings, his long bones are underdeveloped by about 10 weeks. His head is in the 100th percentile, and with findings like this, it's pretty likely that he is going to be born with some form of dwarfism." At the time, we didn't know that there were over 300 different types of dwarfism. I still ignorantly used the M word, and I'm educated. I mean, that one somehow got by me. I did not. I was one of these people who thought that persons with disproportionate dwarfism were called dwarves, and persons with proportionate dwarfism were called midgets. And again, I apologize for the use of that word to my son and to the little person community. It's an offensive term. It's called the M word because it has the same. It packs the same punch as the N word, which is a conversation that we're in right now nationally after the killing of George Floyd. When you discriminate against people for their looks, that's problematic. There's nothing wrong with observing differences. The problem isn't that you observe differences. I observe that my kid has a freaking big Tweety Bird head. I observe that my kid has a Cro-Magnon freaking brow and a little freaking Brad Pitt pug nose that looks nothing like my Jewish Italian schnoz. And, I attribute that to the dwarfism. I understand that that's what's going on there. Does that mean there's something wrong with him? No, it means that he's normal within a certain spectrum. And there are a bunch of people for whom that is normal. Is it normal for me? No, I'm an average height guy. I'm 5'11", 230, brown hair, hazel eyes, Jewish Italian. I'm, sort of average. My son is an anomaly, and he was born with moderate to severe autism. So in addition to having to deal with the dwarfism stuff, he also has to deal with the autism stuff. And we as parents, of course, have been along on this journey for like ever now. He'll be 10 July 30th, and it's been a long 10 years. Good news, his mother's awesome. She loves him unconditionally and has from day one. Me, honestly, I was kind of like the lion that looks at the little cub and has to decide if I like him because he looks like me, or if I'm just going to kill him and eat him because I'm jealous that he's taken all of the attention away from me and the missus. But I decided ultimately that I'd keep them, you know? Now, anybody who knows me knows I love my little boy. Also, anybody who knows me knows that I love most people. I live in a world full of completely different people, and I love the variety. There are Asian people who are from Asia. There are brown skinned people who originate from places like Africa. There are Indian people, lots of them, living in India. There are people all over the world. We're all different. But whether you see us in terms of our similarities, one heart, two lungs, two legs, two arms in most cases, or whether you see us in terms of our difference, a person who is born transgendered, a person who is born, two personalities with two heads and sharing a body. There are so many hiccups out there in nature. Life biology sometimes, makes some really interesting stuff. And our responsibility as a human family is to, show a certain a modicum of diplomacy when discussing our differences. And also, it's not inappropriate to observe differences. I mean, it's frankly bizarre to pretend you don't notice. Like the people who say, I don't see color. Oh, really? Go in the closet and grab me that brown shirt. I bet you're not going to go, oh, I don't. What? They all look the same to me. No, they don't, fucker. You know what a white shirt and a brown shirt look like? The point isn't that they're different. The point is what that difference means to you. If you're saying, oh, I want the white shirt because I think white is, better in some way than brown, well, if that's just a color preference, that's fine. But the moment you tell someone that white, lighter skin is better in some way than darker skin, that straight hair is better in some way than curly hair, that small lips or big lips, or small noses or big feet or small feet, it doesn't matter, dude. It doesn't matter. I mean, we're back to Dr. Seuss with the sneeches, plain belly sneeches and star belly sneeches. It's the idea of discrimination is based on fear, really. It's tribalism. I only want to be around people who look like me because I'm genetically hardwired to only respond to people who are like me. Okay, well, guess what? There was a genetic hiccup at the, fibroblast 23 leg of my son's DNA chain, and as a result, he has achondroplasia dwarfism and looks absolutely nothing like me. In fact, he's a ginger, so where the hell did that come from? Well, there's an answer for that. But my point is, it's a trifecta. He's an achondroplast with autistic with red hair and freckles. Who is this little unicorn? How is this Dennis Jr.? And why shouldn't I just run a pitchfork through him and start over? Because we're fundamentally loving creatures. Whether you've been trained, programmed to believe this or not, we are fundamentally loving creatures. And if you're not tuning into that right now, it's because your program sucks and you need a new program. So guess what? I talk about things here in this space. I talk about men, I talk about women. In some ways, I guess you could say that I track similarly with guys like Jordan Peterson, in that I do believe that there is a distinction in nature between what we might call female energy and what we might call male energy. I believe that that polarized distinction represents itself at many different levels of existence, not just here in the human realm. And I do not think that that is a bad thing. So if I'm going to be the target of haterism because I made that statement, like, oh, you're just a binary 49-year-old white guy, well, then you don't know me at all. And if that's really how you feel, then sorry. Sorry that that's your interpretation. Bye now. Right? Now. Bye right now. You don't have to be here. You can leave. For anybody who sticks around, what you'll discover is I'm a nice guy. I am slightly opinionated. However, I don't have, to my knowledge, I don't have any absolute beliefs. The closest thing I have to an absolute belief is the conviction that we operate locally with a certain amount of seeming autonomy, but that in fact we are part of a larger system and in fact a larger mind. I think that we have created names for this phenomenon, ranging from God, Buddha, Allah, Holy Spirit, the Force be with you. The universe provides, or whatever your, thing is, chi energy or whatever. I mean, Great Spirit, whatever your gig is, however you want to rationalize it for yourself. There is a thing that I guess I'm tuned into, and it's the idea of ultimate, singular, psychic, centralized intelligence. And that's why commonality is a lot more important to me than difference. I am of the opinion, based on my experience as a person for the past 49 years and the experiences that I've had, which have been extensive, a certain amount of academia, which again, I did fairly well in school, so I'm comfortable saying that a lot of my ideologies are, backed up by the thinkers who have come before me. I believe that I'm standing on the shoulders of giants in many ways. But again, is there an absolute truth that I'm able to sort of spit out here and profess? Nah, not really. But I can say with certainty that discrimination is a bad direction. Could you hair split that? Sure. I need to discriminate between whatever, a friend or a foe, a predator or a peaceful agent. That's a rabbit hole, not touching it. Want to keep it simple. You're walking down the road, you see somebody who looks like you wave and say hi. You're walking down the road, you see somebody who doesn't look like you, and you sort of sheepishly move away, right? As far as I'm concerned, in a perfect world, you would extend a handshake or a wave or a smile or brotherly love to the person walking down the street, regardless of their gender, regardless of their color, regardless of their size. And I would say regardless of their race, except that I don't actually believe in races as such. I believe that races are an invention. The truth is, I believe that everything is an invention, and we'll get to that probably in a different session. But my bottom line for this piece is people are fundamentally the same in important ways and different in ways that are significantly less important. And those differences are really cosmetic, sometimes functional. My son's different because he's short, and he has moderate to severe autism, so he's verbally challenged, for example. But as we continue to work with him, we help him to bridge the gap so that he's able to assimilate a little bit more in this culture, and hopefully we're able to also educate people who don't have his talents to see and think the way he's able to see and think, so that there's give and take on both sides, because there are things that he brings to the table that they do not. There are ways in which he's intelligent that they aren't. And as an artist, I can absolutely attest to this, because he's very strong in his right brain. He's a very, very quick associative thinker. And in this world, you're not really celebrated for being a good associative thinker as much as you are for being a good linear thinker, which is typically associated more with sort of left brain thinking, analytical linear thinking, as opposed to synthesized holistic thinking. The point is, if we are parts of a whole, then the common denominator is what's important. And that common denominator really, truly is that we come from the same origin, and therefore have a responsibility to show a familial love to each other. It's bizarre that a family would turn on itself. We're a house divided when we attack ourselves. It's just a bad idea. And so if the common denominator is our similarity and love for one another, then the numerator is, one of two, two of two, or whatever. Let's say a billion. One of a billion, two of a billion, three of a billion, four of a billion, five of a billion of a billion, no matter what the fraction. The function of the numerator is to identify your uniqueness, and the function of the denominator is to identify your commonality. You cannot get around the fact that parts of a whole still total to a checksum that equals that whole. Why do we discriminate? Truth is, because we're programmed to discriminate. Bigger truth is, that's a rabbit hole. Doesn't even matter. Well, it does matter in a sense, literal sense, that it materializes, because thoughts become things. So what's important for us is to recognize when our language expresses difference in a way that shows obliviousness versus in a way that demonstrates ignorance. If you use the word midget and I say, "Whoa, Jack, the M word doesn't play around here. That's a naughty word." And you say, "Why?" And I say, "Because that is a loaded term full of hatred." And I explain the history of the term. Then you're going to say, "Oh my God, I didn't even know that. I'm so sorry. I won't use that anymore." Okay, so you were oblivious. I educated you. Now you know. I was guilty of it. And now I have a son and I educate other people. But once you have been taught that and you say, "Yeah, but I just don't buy that." Wait, what? "Yeah, I just think that's sort of stupid. I think that's just hair splitting. I'm going to keep saying midget. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Tall guy, little midget. I don't see a problem there." Now you're being fucking ignorant, because it just told you that something was hurtful. And you said, "Yeah, I hear you, but I'm going to do it anyway." I'm going to ignore what you said. I'm going to ignore the fact that you flat out said that's hurtful. So ignorance, as always, becomes problematic. When it comes to discrimination, obliviousness is fine. If somebody is oblivious, don't attack them, man. Educate them. If someone is ignorant, well, what do we do? That's where the challenge comes in. And honestly, that's fodder for another conversation. I've set the timer for 20 minutes, and I have a pretty good feeling that timer is going to go off any time now. So the way I'm going to wrap up is this. White, black, tall, short, male, female. I don't care who you are. You have a right to be loved and treated with the same amount of respect as every other creature on earth. That's a fact. Until we not only understand that, but demonstrate that, we're going to have what we have right now, which is life out of balance. And when life is out of balance, it tips to one side, and then it tips to the other side. And then it tips back, and then it tips back again. And for those of you who are tired of riding that roller coaster, if you can't change the world, change you. How? Think about the way you celebrate difference and the way you celebrate commonality. First of all, prioritize commonality. Love every other creature as you love yourself. And if you don't love yourself, get a life coach or therapy or something. And if you can't afford that or just aren't into it, then at least change your judgmental, hateful language and start using validating language. Validate yourself, validate others. That's number one. Tune into love as your commonality. And two, it's okay to recognize difference. Think before you speak. If pointing out difference is going to hurt someone's feelings, maybe either don't do it or do it in a way that lifts them up rather than tears them down. And three, if you share space with people around you who are mean in the way they, frankly, weaponize language to not only point out difference, but to ostracize people because of their difference, to isolate them, then it becomes your moral responsibility to teach by demonstration what appropriateness looks like and to insist that appropriateness be upheld. So that's your message. Discrimination. That's our subject. Told you it was going to get a little uncomfortable, but not terrible. All right, gentlemen, I'll see you on the next one. Peace. Well, guys, thanks for stopping by. It's time to shut down the mental dojo, throw the chains on the doors, lock the padlock, and get the hell out of here. But before I do that, would you do me a favor and hit like? I would appreciate that. And also, if you're picking up what I'm putting down, if you're feeling what I'm doing here, if you're smelling what I'm stepping in, go ahead and hit subscribe so that we can do this again, because the man cave just isn't the same when you're not here, man. And I mean that. Thanks for coming by. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.